Stellantis is offering buyouts to salaried employees. That's the word from Cranes Detroit and the Detroit News. The automaker says that it's part of an effort to cut costs following a decline in net income during the first half of the year.
What if I told you the next Jeep Wrangler or Dodge Challenger you drive might not just be American made, but instead have its roots deep in China? Sounds unbelievable, right? Yet rumors are swirling that iconic American brands like Jeep, Dodge, and Ram could soon be in the hands of a major Chinese auto giant, with Stellantis facing serious financial troubles and Chinese companies like BYD reportedly eyeing these legendary brands. The question looms, could the cars that symbolize American muscle and rugged freedom actually get a foreign makeover? Buckle up, because this story is about more than just cars. It's about the future of American automotive heritage. The financial collapse of Stellantis. Stellantis, the powerful conglomerate behind Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, has been seeing financial troubles pile up at a staggering rate. With a 9% drop in US sales alone, the company is rapidly falling behind as competitors like Ford and General Motors report impressive gains. Ford sales were up by 10% and GM saw an incredible 18% increase in sales. But it's not just the numbers that spell trouble. Iconic models like the Jeep Gladiator saw a shocking 27% decrease in sales, while the Chrysler Pacifica, once a favorite among minivan buyers, fell by 30%. And let's not forget the Ram pickups, once the backbone of the Stellantis lineup, now experiencing a 15% drop in sales. The story doesn't end with the American market. Over in Europe, Stellantis is also struggling, losing market share to companies like Volkswagen and Renault, which are more agile in adapting to the shift towards electric vehicles. Stellantis appears trapped in a freefall, unable to keep pace with the ever-evolving demands of the auto market. And while the company may have once held a solid position in the global auto industry, these numbers are sending a clear message: Stellantis is in serious trouble. So what's driving these devastating declines? And why has the company been so reluctant to confront its issues head-on? Adding to the turmoil are Stellantis' severe quality issues, which have further eroded consumer confidence. Consumer Reports recently ranked Ram trucks dead last in reliability among full-size pickups, a huge blow for a brand that prides itself on rugged dependability. And let's not forget the massive recall involving over 1,400,000 Jeep Cherokees due to fire risks. It's becoming clear that Stellantis' commitment to quality has taken a backseat in recent years, and the result has been disastrous. Chinese companies eyeing American proposal. There is one twist in this story that you won't want to miss. Enter Frank Rhodes, a businessman with a deep connection to the Chrysler legacy. He's the great-grandson of Walter Chrysler, the company's founder. Rhodes has reportedly been trying to buy Chrysler and Dodge to keep these brands American, with promises to preserve the jobs, manufacturing, and heritage that have made them such powerful symbols of the American automotive industry. And get this, Rhodes has billionaire investors lined up to back his plan, people who share his vision for an American-made future. But here's where things get strange. Stellantis doesn't seem interested in Rhodes' proposal at all. While you'd think they'd jump at the chance to keep these brands in American hands, the company has been downright dismissive of Rhodes and his team. Some industry insiders speculate that Stellantis might be holding out for a higher offer from BYD, but others suspect that Stellantis sees an American buyer as a threat to their plans to shift production towards EVs. Rhodes' vision is all about preserving Chrysler and Dodge's legacy, which means sticking with traditional engines and retaining the muscle car identity that has made Dodge such a fan favorite. So why is Stellantis refusing to engage with a buyer who actually cares about these brands and their history? Is it possible they see an American buyer as too much of a risk, someone who might challenge their EV ambitions and insist on keeping those legendary V8 engines in production? Or is there something else at play here? A hidden agenda that Stellantis doesn't want the public to know? One thing's for sure, Rhodes is determined, and he's not giving up without a fight. The power struggle over Stellantis. As if Stellantis didn't have enough to worry about, they're now entangled in a heated labor dispute that could have massive consequences. Recently, Stellantis announced layoffs impacting around 2,450 workers at their Belvidere, Illinois plant. This abrupt shutdown came as a shock, leaving workers uncertain about their future and union representatives furious. The United Auto Workers, the union representing these workers, claims Stellantis has broken multiple contractual agreements, accusing the company of prioritizing profits over people. Stellantis has responded by insisting these cuts are essential for the company's survival, pointing to rising operational costs and declining profits. But from the union's perspective, this isn't just about one plant. The UAW fears these layoffs could set a dangerous precedent for Stellantis to slash jobs across all its US plants, especially if they move forward with a sale to a foreign buyer. For the UAW and its members, this is about securing job guarantees and ensuring that the workforce isn't sacrificed in Stellantis' scramble to make the books look better. This labor dispute has exposed a growing rift between Stellantis and its American workforce. With tensions at an all-time high, it's becoming increasingly clear that Stellantis might be setting itself up for more than just financial losses. American automakers like Ford and GM have managed to maintain relatively harmonious relationships with their workers, which has allowed them to focus on innovation and sales. Meanwhile, Stellantis is bogged down in internal conflicts, leaving it vulnerable to both the financial challenges of a buyout and the logistical headaches that come with labor strikes. As Stellantis juggles potential buyers, the threat of an escalating labor dispute only adds another layer of complexity to an already messy situation. A bombshell that could change everything. Adding even more fuel to this fire is an investigation launched by the US Securities and Exchange Commission, which could put Stellantis under a harsh spotlight. The SEC is examining whether Stellantis violated securities laws by not disclosing negotiations with potential Chinese buyers, specifically BYD. If it's proven that Stellantis kept these talks hidden from shareholders, the company could be facing major legal consequences, including possible fraud charges. For a company already facing declining sales, a recall crisis, and labor disputes, the timing couldn't be worse. Stellantis CEO Carlos Tavares has repeatedly denied any ongoing negotiations with Chinese companies. However, as more rumors and insider information leak out, it's starting to look like these denials may have been little more than an attempt to buy time. The SEC investigation is not only putting Tavares' leadership under scrutiny, but also casting doubt on the transparency and ethics of Stellantis' executive team. If found guilty, Stellantis could face millions, if not hundreds of millions in fines. In extreme cases, such violations of securities law can lead to criminal charges against top executives, potentially shaking the company's leadership to its core. But what does this investigation mean for the future of Jeep, Dodge, and Ram? For one, it adds a new level of uncertainty to any potential buyout. A Chinese acquisition of such high-profile American brands would already be controversial enough without the added risk of legal battles and public backlash. Moreover, the SEC investigation could potentially delay or even halt any sale discussions until a clear resolution is reached. If Stellantis is forced to publicly disclose more details about its dealings with BYD, it could lead to a public relations nightmare that might scare off Chinese investors or even prompt American lawmakers to step in and block the sale altogether. This investigation is about more than just legalities. It's a matter of national interest. If Jeep, Dodge, and Ram are indeed headed for foreign ownership, it could provoke a significant backlash not just from consumers, but also from political leaders who view these brands as national treasures. And with the SEC digging into Stellantis' every move, one wrong step could turn this already volatile situation into an outright scandal. Auto loan delinquencies and a market on the brink. While all eyes are on the SEC investigation and the labor disputes, Stellantis is also grappling with an issue that hits right at the core of its business model: a spike in auto loan delinquencies. Auto loan defaults are surging to levels not seen since the 2008 financial crisis, and Stellantis is feeling the pressure more than most. With car prices at record highs and interest rates climbing, consumers are increasingly unable to make their monthly payments. For Stellantis, which has consistently raised vehicle prices above inflation, this spells disaster. In recent months, Stellantis dealerships have been left with unsold inventory piling up on their lots, while repossessions have also surged as more customers default on loans. This doesn't just mean lost sales, it means Stellantis is taking financial hits on cars they've already sold as repossessed vehicles flood back into the system, losing value with each passing day. One dealer even said, "It's like a ticking time bomb. We're sitting on vehicles we can't sell and loans that keep going bad. How much longer can this last?" As repossessions increase, lenders are tightening their loan standards, making it harder for buyers to qualify for financing, especially for pricier models that Stellantis has been pushing. This vicious cycle is putting Stellantis' dealerships in a bind. They need to sell cars to stay afloat, but with more stringent lending requirements and fewer buyers, they're left struggling to move inventory. For Stellantis, this crisis isn't just about money, it's about survival. The financial strain of unsold vehicles, loan defaults, and plummeting sales is turning into a monumental challenge that could force the company into desperate measures, including selling off iconic brands like Jeep and Dodge to keep itself afloat. The end of the V8. For decades, Dodge has been the go-to brand for American muscle car enthusiasts, with its iconic V8 engine setting a standard in power and performance. The unmistakable roar of a Dodge Challenger or Charger with a Hemi V8 under the hood has become a symbol of American car culture. But now Stellantis is making a massive shift toward electric vehicles, and that might mean saying goodbye to the V8 engine for good. To prepare for the future, Stellantis has already introduced the Hurricane engine, a twin turbocharged straight six that's supposed to replace the V8, and even some V6 models in Dodge's lineup. But while Stellantis argues that the Hurricane engine will offer better fuel efficiency and power, not everyone is convinced. Dealers are noticing a pattern, customers coming in looking for that classic V8 growl often leave disappointed, with some even refusing to consider a V6 or turbocharged model. As one Dodge dealer put it, "It's like trying to sell a burger without the meat. These customers want a V8, and if they can't get it, they're going elsewhere." The shift away from the V8 engine isn't just about the individual models, it's about the core identity of Dodge as a brand that celebrates raw, unfiltered horsepower. And here's where it gets even more interesting. If Stellantis sells Dodge to BYD or another Chinese company, there's a strong chance they'll push for even more EVs in the lineup, leaving little to no room for traditional combustion engines. Chinese automakers like BYD are all in on electric technology and see the future of the auto industry as electric, plain and simple. So if Dodge falls under foreign ownership, it's very likely we'll see fewer, if any, gas-powered models in their lineup moving forward. For muscle car fans, that would be nothing short of heartbreaking. A complete departure from everything Dodge has stood for over the years. The BYD connection. A game changer or a threat to American heritage? BYD's interest in buying Dodge and Chrysler isn't just about business. It's a calculated move to break into the American market using beloved American brands as a foothold. BYD has made significant waves in the global auto market, especially in the electric vehicle sector, where they're a formidable competitor to companies like Tesla. And with US tariffs making it difficult for Chinese automakers to compete domestically, acquiring Dodge and Jeep could be BYD's way of bypassing these barriers by setting up shop right on American soil. If BYD does acquire these brands, we could be looking at a complete overhaul in production, design, and marketing strategies. Dodge could shift from muscle cars to EVs entirely, and Jeep, known for rugged off-road vehicles, might also lean heavily into electric models to meet BYD's EV-focused vision. Imagine Jeep Wranglers with no gas-powered option, exclusively sold as electric vehicles. While EVs are certainly the way of the future, this shift could leave traditional Jeep and Dodge fans alienated. Their once cherished vehicles now carrying a fundamentally different driving experience and even identity, but it's not just the brands that would change. BYD's acquisition of Dodge and Jeep could signal a shift in the auto industry's power dynamics, with China gaining influence over iconic American brands. For some, this would be a bitter pill to swallow, seeing these symbols of American manufacturing pride essentially repurposed to serve the goals of a foreign automaker. From a purely business perspective, BYD's deep pockets in advanced EV technology could revitalize Dodge and Jeep, possibly securing their financial future. But for the loyalists, there's a nagging question: would these brands still be Dodge and Jeep, or would they become something unrecognizable? This looming acquisition has also sparked concerns around national security and the preservation of American culture in the auto industry. Politicians and industry insiders are beginning to voice concerns over the potential sale, warning that allowing Chinese ownership of such iconic brands could have unforeseen consequences for American jobs, identity, and even national interests. Could BYD's acquisition reshape the American auto industry forever, or will the backlash be so fierce that Stellantis is forced to reconsider? Why Stellantis might be forced to sell? Stellantis' recent struggles aren't just a matter of sales and market share, they go right to the heart of the company's financial stability. In the past year alone, Stellantis' free cash flow has plummeted by 84%. The rapid decline in cash reserves has sparked panic among executives and investors, who fear that if the trend continues, the company might be left with no choice but to sell off key assets. And with labor disputes, SEC investigations, and a spike in auto loan delinquencies, Stellantis is fighting battles on all fronts, with little relief in sight. For Stellantis, selling Jeep, Dodge, and Ram might be the only way to keep the rest of the company afloat. But ironically, these three brands are among Stellantis' most valuable assets. Jeep is synonymous with adventure and off-roading. Dodge holds a place in the hearts of muscle car enthusiasts, and Ram trucks are known for their reliability and rugged design. Selling them off might secure a temporary cash influx, but it would also mean losing some of the most beloved and profitable brands under Stellantis' umbrella. So why is Stellantis even considering such a drastic measure? The answer might lie in the shifting priorities of the company's leadership. CEO Carlos Tavares has made it clear that he sees the future in electric vehicles and believes that Stellantis' survival depends on a quick pivot towards EVs. However, many Jeep, Dodge, and Ram models are still gas-powered, appealing to a customer base that isn't necessarily ready to embrace an all-electric lineup. By selling off these brands to a company like BYD, Stellantis could essentially offload its legacy assets, allowing it to focus on developing its own EV portfolio without the burden of transitioning these heritage brands. But make no mistake, selling Jeep, Dodge, and Ram to a foreign buyer would be a gamble of enormous proportions. Not only would Stellantis risk alienating loyal customers, but it could also face backlash from investors and even government agencies that see the sale as a national security risk. Imagine if a Chinese company gained control over such significant brands in the American auto industry. It would be an unprecedented shift in an industry that has always been a point of national pride. The threat of a major cultural shift. If Jeep, Ram, and Dodge fall into Chinese hands, we might witness a transformation unlike anything the American auto industry has seen. Dodge, for example, has always been synonymous with raw power, with models like the Charger and Challenger leading the way in muscle car culture. But if BYD, a company focused almost exclusively on electric vehicles, takes over, there's a strong chance they'll prioritize efficiency, minimalism, and technology over the gas-powered horsepower that Dodge fans have long cherished. Imagine a world where Dodge's iconic muscle cars are replaced by sleek, silent EVs. Gone would be the rumbling V8s, the exhaust notes that make heads turn, and the sheer adrenaline that comes with pushing a Hemi engine to its limits. For enthusiasts, this change wouldn't just represent a shift in technology, it would be a fundamental alteration of the brand's soul. Jeep, too, would undergo a significant transformation, with its rugged off-road image potentially evolving into a brand more focused on city-friendly electric SUVs, leaving traditional Jeep fans questioning whether the brand is still built for adventure. For many, this transformation would mark the end of an era. American brands have always stood for freedom, power, and individuality, values that seem at odds with the efficiency-driven, minimalist ethos that BYD would likely bring to the table. This cultural shift wouldn't just affect car buyers, it would resonate with the entire automotive community. Car shows, fan meetups, and online forums are filled with passionate Dodge and Jeep enthusiasts who see these brands as part of their identity. A shift toward an all-electric lineup would fundamentally change what it means to own a Dodge or Jeep, and for some, it might be a change too drastic to accept. Why America is on edge. The potential sale of Jeep, Dodge, and Ram to a Chinese company has raised red flags not only among consumers but also within government circles. There's growing concern that allowing a foreign entity to control such iconic brands could pose a threat to national security. Jeep in particular has close historical ties to the US military, with its origins rooted in World War II as a trusted military vehicle. To think that this all-American brand might end up in foreign hands is unsettling for many. Some lawmakers are beginning to speak out, warning that a sale of this magnitude could allow a foreign entity to gain a strategic foothold in the US economy. While it might seem far-fetched, these brands hold significant influence and economic power within the American market. If BYD or another Chinese company were to acquire Jeep, Dodge, and Ram, they could influence production, supply chains, and even employment trends across the country. This influence could create vulnerabilities, particularly in times of political tension between the US and China. For some, this is more than just a business deal. It's a matter of protecting American interests. In fact, the debate over foreign ownership in the auto industry reflects a larger, growing concern about the role of Chinese companies in critical sectors of the American economy. From telecommunications to technology, the presence of Chinese firms is becoming increasingly controversial. The idea that China could also control a substantial portion of the US auto market is a step too far for some officials and industry insiders who argue that such a deal would be a security risk disguised as a business transaction. As the debate intensifies, it's possible we might even see government intervention, with some lawmakers pushing for new regulations to prevent foreign takeovers in key industries. How Dodge, Jeep, and Ram fans are reacting. Among the people who stand to lose the most in this potential sale are the loyal fans who've supported Jeep, Dodge, and Ram through thick and thin. For these fans, these brands aren't just cars, they're an integral part of their identity. Jeep owners, for example, are known for their strong sense of community, with a wave or a nod shared between drivers on the road. Dodge fans are some of the most passionate in the automotive world, fiercely loyal to their muscle cars and the unmistakable sound of a roaring engine. Ram, meanwhile, has built a reputation as the truck of choice for those who need power, durability, and reliability in one package. The news of a potential Chinese acquisition has not gone down well with this community. Online forums, car clubs, and social media pages have been buzzing with opinions, with many fans expressing deep frustration and disappointment. For some, the idea of their favorite brand being owned by a foreign company feels like a betrayal, as if the legacy they've supported and cherished is being sold off to the highest bidder. The cultural and patriotic significance of these brands is something that goes beyond simple ownership. For fans, it's about loyalty, pride, and a shared identity rooted in American history. Even dealers are beginning to voice concerns, fearing that a foreign ownership shift could lead to major changes in the dealership experience. Dealerships have historically relied on the unique selling points of Jeep, Dodge, and Ram to attract a loyal customer base. But if BYD or another Chinese company brings in different design and production philosophies, dealers worry that the unique appeal of these brands could be diluted. The Made in America appeal is something that resonates resonates strongly with buyers, and a shift in ownership could make selling these vehicles a harder task, particularly to the American consumer. So where do we go from here? Stellantis is at a crossroads, balancing financial instability, labor conflicts, and the looming specter of a foreign takeover that could change the face of American auto brands forever. Jeep, Dodge, and Ram aren't just cars, they're symbols, memories, and a shared identity that unites enthusiasts across the country. But with Chinese companies eyeing these iconic brands, the future of American muscle and rugged off-roaders is in jeopardy. Will these brands remain true to their roots, or will they be transformed into something entirely unrecognizable? As the auto industry braces for what could be one of its biggest shakeups in history, make sure to stay tuned and keep following our channel. We'll keep you updated as this story unfolds and let you know exactly how these changes could impact the cars you love and the values you hold dear. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest twists and turns in this saga. The future of Jeep, Dodge, and Ram might look very different, and you won't want to miss a moment of this unfolding drama.